We are pleased to be joined by Congressman Thomas Massie. You've had quite a week, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi called me a dangerous menace. And I think there need to be more dangerous menaces to Nancy Pelosi's agenda in Washington, D.C.
So what did you do to draw the ire of so many of those in power? I think the good news is a lot of Americans found out John Kerry is still alive. All right, so that's officially been confirmed. He turned over a rock to respond to you, right? The president responded to you. What great act of treason did you commit against this republic, sir, that the entire system brought heat down upon thee?
I quoted Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution to them, which says you have to show up to Congress in order to pass bills. And what they were trying to do at first, they wanted to just do a unanimous consent with nobody there. And then they decided they would do a voice vote with nobody there. And I told them that you can't do that. You need at least half of Congress there. The Constitution requires a quorum. And they said, well, if you impose that on us on Friday, you'll delay the bill to Saturday. I said, it's Thursday morning. Like, go ahead and tell people to show up. I'm telling you, that's what I'm going to do. So what happened is people did show up. They came to Congress, and it was important that they did. And the bill passed on time. A lot of people say that I delayed the bill or that was my tactic. No, I wanted a recorded vote, and I wanted people to follow the Constitution. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a recorded vote because they denied me one. This is the first time in the 7.5 years I've been in Congress that they have ever refused to take a recorded vote at the request of a member. But they did that, and instead of taking the recorded vote, Nancy Pelosi forced everybody to come into the chamber and prove that there was a quorum. She could have avoided that by taking the recorded vote. And by the way, Steve, a lot of people, even my supporters, were at first a little apprehensive. They're saying, why would you go set yourself on fire, Friday, knowing this bill is going to pass? I'll tell you why I went and objected. It's because Pelosi has a plan for a fourth bill. She said that this third Corona bill is just a down payment. And if we let her set the precedent that she can pass any bill she wants with nobody there, then how would you oppose the fourth bill? I actually think that I've strengthened Donald Trump's hand in terms of the negotiation with Pelosi if there should be another bill.
What is this bill? What is it? We did a thorough review of it with a guest last week who's kind of a conservative muckraker. Maybe you've heard of him, seen his work, Phil Kerpen, and he took us through this bill. And he essentially summarized it as a couple of necessities that the economy really needs, surrounded by a lot of complete and total trash. That was essentially his summation of this when we had him on last week. What is this that may turn out to be the largest spending bill in all of human history?
Yeah, and it's the biggest wealth transfer from the lower and middle class to the super rich in all of human history. Look, the one family could expect, if they get 2 checks for themselves and 2 checks for their kids, a family might expect to get $3,000 if they qualify. The problem is this spending bill enables $6 trillion of spending, borrowing, loaning, printing of money. And there's 100 million families. Take $6 trillion, divide it by 100 million families. That's $60,000 of obligations for every family, yet they're going to receive $3,000. So where does the rest of the money go? Okay, I've demonstrated maybe 5% it goes to the families, 10% goes to small businesses. The rest of this bill goes to people, shareholders and bankers. And the $1,200 checks that they're talking about, that's the cheese in the trap. To get everybody to sign up for central planning, to get everybody to sign up for all of this wealth transfer. It's a bait and switch is what it is. What it should be, Steve, is a war on the virus. Okay, when we were bombed at Pearl Harbor, did we do an economic stimulus? No, we declared war on Japan. We need to declare war on this virus. We need to have a Manhattan Project against this virus. If there is a spending bill to be had, that's the spending bill that we need.
Now that you've had a chance to do the rounds, go back and talk to your constituents there in Kentucky, what's been the reaction since emotion has subsided since last Friday?
I have got nothing but an outpouring of support. I will tell you, on Thursday and early morning Friday, there were some of my friends who were texting me saying, this isn't the hill to die on. Like, we understand, you believe deeply in the Constitution, but don't harm yourself because we want to see you reelected. And then there were some people who said, just don't do it. We need this bill. But by the end of the day, Friday, the people who had texted me that were saying, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what this bill was about, and I didn't know what your strategy is, and now I back you 100%. By the way, I've received $130,000 of online donations since Friday. That's more than I raised in 3 quarters last year.
Wow.
I raised in 3 days. And the average donation is $60. That shows you what kind of support. Like, America just wants to know that somebody's going to fight. Unfortunately, it was just one person on Friday. Now, there were 5 or 6 people who would have voted no if it had been recorded vote. But people want to see somebody fight. And I've kicked the hornet's nest. There are 400 people in Washington, D.C. that want to see me defeated in my upcoming primary. So if somebody can help me at thomasmassie.com, please do. Please join the people who are trying to bail me out here. I'm being crushed by the establishment.
I'm glad you went there next. I want to ask you about that because one of the things I've tried to educate our audience on over the years, Congressman, as someone who's worked in the inside of the process, that the whole point of this, there's 2 rules of American politics. Number 1, you cannot attack the Republican establishment from the right. Media won't give you a platform to do it. That's just that the Republican establishment is all the Overton, whatever their position is. The Overton window says that's as far libertarian or conservative as we are allowed to go, is whatever the corporatist wing of the Republican Party thinks, like Mitt Romney, for example. That's as far right as we could possibly challenge the left. The other is to essentially create protection rackets to not expose what a lot of its caucus really thinks on issues so that they don't really have to come out and say, well, I really don't mind big government. I really am okay with Planned Parenthood and things of that nature. See, I think that is the hornet's nest you kicked over there, you assaulted the protection racket there that put everybody on notice.
I call it the incumbent protection package. It's kind of like Z-BART on your car when you bought a new car. When you get there, Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader, and Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic leader, they both promised their caucuses that they will protect them. They'll protect them from transparency, from accountability. They'll make sure that they don't get challenged seriously in a primary. And that's why Kevin McCarthy and Nancy Pelosi locked arm in arm last week to make sure there wasn't a recorded vote. If there's anything that's a tell in this, it's that I did get a quorum of Congress to show up. And even then, even when they had plenty of votes to pass this, they refused to go on the record. And that's what they were doing. They're trying to protect vulnerable members of their caucus. And the sad thing is, the members of the caucus, you would think that congressmen would want to be part of the record, that's what they were elected to do, to go
right.
there.
Why wouldn't you want to be on the record saving America from the worst attack since 9/11, if not Pearl Harbor? I never understood in the Obama years, we had more people on food stamps than the population of Spain. If more government is compassion, why weren't they holding press conferences in the Rose Garden to thank the American people for having the most compassion they've ever had, right? I mean, if this bill is saving America, why not take credit for it then?
Oh, I think it's going to boomerang on them, and they probably know that too. This is basically what TARP was, or what the Patriot Act was. It's using a crisis to do an agenda that's un-American and not constitutional, and it's going to be with us for a long time, if not forever. Some of the things that they're doing here, like enriching the Federal Reserve, look, they're going to be responsible for $4 trillion, and it's not even going to be auditable what they undertake. The bill that Congress passed is $2 trillion. All told, altogether, this is a $6 trillion stimulus package, and it still doesn't do what needs to be done. We need an antibody antigen test to know if you've had the disease and been conferred some immunity to it. We need to test every American. We need like $10 test kits that you can take before you go to work. That's the only way we're going to get this economy going again. And I want the most compassionate policy possible. I want to save the most lives possible. And the trajectory we're on right now, we're going to have more deaths from suicides and heart disease and diabetes than we ever would from the coronavirus if we stay on this ridiculous path.
Congressman, well said, by the way. Final thing I wanted to ask you about. If we can just send every American $1,200, why can't we send them $100,000?
Go for it. I mean, that's the $100,000 question, Steve. And I'll tell you why. Because for every dime you give to the Americans, Wall Street and the bankers are the ones writing the bill. They're going to insist on 90 cents.
I knew there were answers to that question, and all of them were bad, and you gave them to us. Congressman Thomas Massie, God bless you, man. Thank you for joining us here today. And you know what? I want our audience to know this too. Your office hunted us down. All right. So I think that's an important point for our audience to understand is unlike a lot of your other elected representatives who did not want to have to go on the record to quote unquote save America with this stimulus bill, the guy who stood up to the system is eager to explain his actions and his decisions and is actively seeking out opportunities and platforms to do so. So you should probably take that into account as well as you're filtering through the various perspectives here on what Congressman Massie did last week. Thank you for joining us today, sir, here on Blaze TV.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I'm going to remain transparent and force it on the others.
And we need that probably now, absolutely more than ever. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
God bless you.